Happy Halloween. I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't even really like Halloween that much. I more so use it as a way to pass the time until November 1st, which is when Christmas starts in my house. Yep, I'm one of those people. However, there was one year when I was really excited for Halloween. 2019. And why was that? 2 words and 1 number. Luigi's Mansion 3. It released on Halloween Day in 2019, which is kind of a good idea, kind of a bad idea. Let me explain why it's kind of a bad idea. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool to have the game on Halloween, but it's only really fitting if you're planning on beating the game in one day, because less than 24 hours later is Christmas time. Anyway, this video will be a basic review of the game after 5 years, to see if it still holds up after half a decade. This video will be split up into 6 segments: a general overview of the game, the controls, the visuals, the music, the ghosts, and the other modes. So let's begin with a general overview. Luigi's Mansion 3 was initially revealed at the very beginning of the September 2018 Nintendo Direct. This was easily my favorite announcement of that entire presentation. What is it with Nintendo putting my favorite announcement at the very beginning? Anyway, it was given the vague release window of 2019, as well as the temporary title Luigi's Mansion 3. How temporary are we talking? It looked decent, not mind-blowing or anything though, especially visually. It didn't look bad, but I would have been a little bit disappointed if this is what the game looked like when it released. We had to wait a fairly long time before we got any new information about this game. The February 2019 Direct passed and we got nothing, and that Direct started with Super Mario Maker 2. And guess what? That was my favorite announcement of the Direct. We had to wait until the E3 2019 Nintendo Direct, which was in June, before we saw anything else. And the visuals got a massive upgrade. I won't talk about them too much now because that's a segment later in the video, but they look so good. This trailer kind of acted as a re-reveal of the game. It revealed 4 major additions to Luigi's moveset: the slam, the suction shot, the burst, and the biggest one of all, Gooigi. He actually first appeared in the Nintendo 3DS version of Luigi's Mansion, the original one. And in that game he was basically just the player 2 character, and he kind of reprises his role here, although he's way more important in this game. Speaking of co-op, this trailer would reveal the return of ScareScraper from Dark Moon. The game would once again appear in the September Nintendo Direct. The only major reveals for this trailer were a few new floor themes and Scream Park, which is a new minigame mode. And a little over a month later, the game released on October 31st, 2019. I was actually able to get it on release date. This is one of the first games I was able to do so with. Enough about the build up to the game, let's get into the general overview of the game itself. The main location of the game is the Last Resort Hotel. It consists of 17 floors if you count the 2 basement levels. The floors from lowest to highest are the Boiler Works, the basement, the Grand Lobby, the mezzanine, the hotel shops, the Great Stage, RIP Suites, Castle MacFrights, Garden Suites, Paranormal Productions, Unnatural History Museum, Tomb Suites, Twisted Suites, the Spectral Catch, the Fitness Center, the Dance Hall, and the Master Suites. I like the idea of the game being set in a giant hotel. I think it's really interesting. But having all the floors be random themes isn't something I'm a big fan of, to be honest. Variety is usually good, but when you go from a regular hotel to a medieval castle, the immersion is kind of broken. All of these areas just feel fake to me. They never felt like they've been lived in. The mansions from the first 2 games felt like people lived in them at some point, but not here. Especially the mansion from the first game. But everything here feels like it was constructed as part of a set. So I hope for the inevitable Luigi's Mansion 4 they go back to something similar to the first or second game. Dark Moon handled having different themed areas very well in my opinion. Instead of all the themes being crammed into one building, they're kind of spread out across a giant area. The story is fairly basic this time around. Luigi, Mario, Peach, and 3 Toads get tricked into going to this hotel. King Boo and the new antagonist, Helen Gravely, trap everyone but Luigi in paintings. Now he has to go save them. So it's your fairly standard Luigi's Mansion story. I do like that it's not just Mario this time around though, so at least there's some variety there. So the gameplay loop is to just go through each floor while solving puzzles and fighting ghosts. Once you get to the end of each floor, there's a boss ghost that you have to fight to get an elevator button. I forgot to mention that the ghost stole all of the elevator buttons, so you can't get to the next floor without an elevator button. And there's no stairs. I guess it doesn't matter though, since this is a haunted hotel and they don't have to pass any safety inspections. Anyway, let's get into the more specific categories, starting with the controls. The game controls how you'd expect. You move Luigi with the left thumbstick and you control the poltergeist nozzle and flashlight with the right one. You vacuum stuff in with the right trigger and you exhale with the left. The strobe bulb and the dark light from Dark Moon also return in this game. They're basically the same, except now the dark light doesn't have a time limit on it, which is nice. Along with those, the game adds the aforementioned 4 new additions to Luigi's moveset. Easily the most so far. The slam is this game's replacement for the system that was in Dark Moon. And that game you had to vacuum a ghost to build up a meter. And when that meter was full, you could press A to do a large surge, which depleted a lot of the ghost's health. In Luigi's Mansion 3, while capturing a ghost, you also have to build up a meter. But when that meter is full, you press A and he slams the ghost on the ground. A big difference with this is that you can hit other ghosts with the ghost you're slamming. It's satisfying, sure, but it's really broken. It makes capturing ghosts way too easy. The main enemy ghosts you'll be encountering in this game are goobs, who have 100 HP, which may sound like a lot, but when you realize the slam takes out 20 of their HP, it makes them less intimidating. And it also does 20 damage to whichever ghost you're slamming the other ghost into. So this makes it too easy to take out a lot of ghosts at once. If you do end up getting surrounded, you can use another new addition to Luigi's moveset, the burst. Pressing both triggers at once causes the poltergeist to send out a burst of air, which knocks ghosts away and gives Luigi a little jump. It's a good new move in my opinion. It's probably the best way they could have added a jump to the Luigi's Mansion series. There aren't many instances when you have to use it, but I'd rather have it than not. The suction shot is really forgettable to me for some reason. You basically just shoot out a plunger and it lets you pull stuff. Or you can even stun ghosts with them. Did anybody do this? And then you've got the biggest new addition, Luigi. You summon him by clicking down on the right thumbstick. You click it again to go back to controlling Luigi. And if you double click it, Luigi will go back to where he belongs. Luigi controls basically the exact same as Luigi, but he can go through bars and spikes. But he's also really vulnerable to water and fire. Yeah, he's dead. That and he's really green. Other than that, he's basically the exact same. Luigi also opens the door for local co-op, but what kills this is that he's not unlocked until a few hours into the game. I never played the main story in co-op, but if you did want to use 2 players, I could see it easily being a real big problem. Like, sorry man, you're gonna have to wait until I capture the maid ghost. The main thing I don't like about the way Luigi controls in this game is how he runs. In the first game, he was almost always at full speed. In Dark Moon, you had to hold the B button to run, which was weird, but it worked. In this game, he only starts running after a few seconds of walking. I'd much rather he just run at full speed at all times, or let me control when he's running at full speed. It's not a huge deal or anything, but I've always found it to be kind of annoying. Man, this game looks so nice. Like, genuinely, this game is so visually impressive, especially considering it's running on the Switch. I mean, this game looks like a cartoon. All of the animation is super expressive, the character models look great, and the best part, in my opinion, is the lighting. I mean, there isn't really much of a difference visually between the pre-rendered cutscenes and the actual gameplay. So it's safe to say I easily think this is the best looking game on the entire console. I don't think anything before or after will top it, and the fact that they got it to look this good without any noticeable lag is insane. I guess I'll also talk about the box art in this segment. I could have done it during the general overview, but to be honest, I completely forgot. I don't really like it that much. It's not bad or anything, it's just super boring. It just shows Luigi and Luigi in a hallway. There's nothing really interesting about it. There's not a single ghost on it either, which wouldn't have been that big of a deal if Dark Moon and the first game didn't have ghosts on theirs. I mean, sure, Dark Moon only had a boo, but that's besides the point. And again, it's not that big of a deal, but it still makes it my least favorite box art in the entire series so far. It's an alright soundtrack, but none of it really sticks out to me that much. I don't think any of it is bad necessarily, just not very memorable. The only one that I can remember off the top of my head that isn't either the title theme or within the first 2 floors is the dungeon theme from the castle floor. None of it is really creepy either. I mean, sure, that's fine. It's a Luigi's Mansion game, not a real horror game. But even Dark Moon had some creepy sounding stuff. Especially the ambient themes, if that even counts as music. This is one of the most important parts of the Luigi's Mansion series. The main enemies you fight, the ghosts. In this game, there are 4 distinct types of ghosts. Regular, boss, rare, and the boos. And let me get them out of the way, and man do they feel like such an afterthought in this game. Their names kinda correlate to what floor they're on sometimes, which is neat, I guess. And some of the names aren't even original either. They're reused from the first or second game. For example, Luigi and Kung Boo were just from Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, which this could be seen as those specific Boos returning, I guess, but it's just kinda lame. They're like, guess who's back? Apart from that, why do I think they were a last-minute addition? There's only 1 per floor, excluding the last floor, which has none. And what do you get when you collect them all? A lot of money? Extra content? No. A stupid looking flashlight and an achievement. In order to find them, you just have to walk around and wait for your controller to start vibrating. It vibrates in the Morse code for boo, which is kind of cool, but I only know that because I looked at the trivia section for this game on the Mario Wiki. The regular ghosts aren't great either. They're basically just reskins of the ones from Dark Moon. The Goob is essentially the Greenie, the Hammer and Slammer look nearly identical. Hiders and Oozers look really similar except one's blue and one's orange. Sneakers and Slinkers are basically the same. The only one that's really new is the Trapper. And it, well, traps Luigi. And you have to use Gooigi to get him out. That's technically not the only new ghost. There's the mini Goobs and mini Hammers. These are so lazy. Just make the regular ones smaller and pitch up their voices a little bit. And they take no effort to defeat because once you stun them, they're immediately vacuumed up. The rare ghosts are just reskins of the regular ghosts that have special effects to them. And they only appear in the ScareScraper mode and are pretty unremarkable in my opinion. The boss ghosts are what a lot of people wanted from this game. They were more humanoid and served as bosses or just puzzles. Dark Moon replaced them with the Possessor ghosts. And as the name implies, they possess stuff. This led to way more interesting boss fights. However, they lack a lot of personality. They all look the exact same but with a different amount of horns. Luigi's Mansion 3 is kind of the best of both worlds. You get the ghost with the personality and the more in-depth boss fights. So I definitely like the boss ghosts, I just wish they were creepy like the portrait ghosts from the first game. Again, I'm not expecting a real horror game or anything, but King MacFrights sounds like a minion. So Luigi's Mansion 3 has 3 main modes in total. The main story, obviously, ScareScraper, and Scream Park. ScareScraper is similar to how it was in Dark Moon, but worse. So there's 4 different objectives the game can cycle through. Capture the ghosts, collect the money, rescue the toads, and defeat the crows. Capture the ghosts and collect the money are fairly self-explanatory. You need to capture all the ghosts and collect the amount of money the game tells you to, before the time runs out. Collect the money is okay, it's only really good when people can actually follow the instructions. Rescue the toads as you look for 4 different toads and bring them to a specific room. It's whatever. And then we have Defeat the Crows, also known as the worst thing ever. Defeat the Crows sucks. It's exactly what it sounds like. And to do that, you either have to vacuum them up or stun them. It's just tedious. It's only really fun when you get that power-up that lets you light up the entire room, which immediately kills all the stupid birds. The other mode is the new Scream Park. The name is a play on the word theme park. It took me an embarrassingly long time to get the pun. It's basically just a bunch of Luigi's Mansion minigames. It's okay. There's some fun to be had, I guess, but a lot of the minigames are pretty worthless. Of the original 3 minigames, Ghost Hunt is probably my favorite. You and up to 7 others look around this small graveyard area for ghosts. Cannon Barrage is okay. It uses the stupid ducky floaty from the Boiler Works. And notice how I said original 3. That's right, Luigi's Mansion 3 got DLC. But no, not for the story mode or anything. For the side modes. ScareScraper got 6 new floor themes and 6 new funny costumes for Luigi. And Scream Park gets 6 whole new minigames. Kind of. Tricky Ghost Hunt is basically just Ghost Hunt again, but with serious safety hazards. Dodge Brawl is easily the best minigame out of this whole mode. It's worth the $10 for the DLC alone. Especially just Dodgeball, it's really fun. Riverbank is another stupid floaty game. Puckstravaganza is basically just hockey. It's decent. Floaty Frenzy. Desperate Measures is interesting. You and your team have to use sand and objects that are around the room to match the weight, but this is way too complicated for a stupid side mode minigame. Scream Park is an alright addition. There's only really 4 minigames that I like though. I also hate the fact that a third of the games are stupid floaty games. That's dumb. This game is still really good, even though now I'm definitely able to see more flaws. I mean, back when it first came out, I was calling this the best Luigi's Mansion game and one of my favorite games of all time. I don't really feel that way anymore, but it's still a really solid game that's a lot of fun. I'd still recommend it. It's definitely worth it. It's definitely a lot more worth it than Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Both of these games are $60. Neither should be. One is 5 years old and the other is an 11-year-old 3DS game. And I still can't believe how well it's done. Over 14 million copies is something I never would have expected from a Luigi's Mansion game. It has sold nearly double of the first 2 games combined, which is just crazy, especially with this as the box art.